Hilux, they're unbreakable, aren't they?
Welcome back to Project Luxy. This is the power episode. We've upgraded the alternator to get more amp hours. We've upgraded the rear. We've got a full power solution that'll suit most people out there. And it's affordable and it's portable. Stay tuned. This is my favorite episode so far. G'day ladies and gents. This is Project Luxy, the power episode. My complete power solution. It's all here, or you could have it out here. Here we are, back after 3 weeks out in the bush, testing out everything on a vehicle, and it went pretty well. And we put this to the test for sure. The power system. We did shoot most of this out in the bush, but there was a lot of stuff going on in here with dust and just crap everywhere. It was very distracting, so some bits you're going to see reshot from the workshop and some bits you're going to see from the bush. First things first, I'm going to run through the entire system, just briefly, just mention what it is, and then you can jump to all the skip points down below as I'm going to dissect every single part of this vehicle. Now the main part is the modified power box here, which is a Lunar box with an Alternator battery, modified by Klarman Automotive Solutions. This is the best thing that I've seen so far that's affordable and portable for electrical stuff. Now, everything else in here works around this box right here. I can't wait to get more into it, but there's a lot going on inside this box and on the outside too. Fuse box, switches. On the switches, we got lights, we got camp lights and reverse lights for driving at night, and we got a water pump, we have a diesel pump. This is my charging hub, so I can charge everything in here, phone and camera gear and boombox, whatever. And here is the MTV35 fridge, everything in a nutshell. The power box, the best part of this whole electrical build. This is a Lunar box, as I mentioned earlier, but Klarman Automotive Solutions have changed it, and as I mentioned already, there's a BCDC on the back which has solar input. So this solution, with all the wiring harness and everything, is good to go. Now inside it has a Victron shunt. That Victron shunt is Bluetooth. It's a smart shunt. It reads everything that goes in and out of the battery. Tells you the status, 70%, voltage is 13.24. Down the bottom there you can see the starter battery voltage as well. You can also see the history of everything, like the charge rates, the discharge, what's been going in, what's been going out basically. Cool part is you don't need a display mounted anywhere. You can just Bluetooth it off your phone. I've moved the fridge out of the way so we can better see all the switches and plugs that are on the Lunar box, the modified Lunar box. Starting with the back of it actually. On the back we have a 1225D, so BCDC, so it takes in power from solar and also takes in power from the vehicle. So there is a hard wire from the vehicle to the back here, plugged in with an Anderson plug, so I can unplug it, and that powers this box constantly. Master cutoff, that cuts everything off. Now if I'm charging it, the battery, it will still receive a charge even though I've cut this off. This just cuts all output out of it. Up here we have an Engel plug which is added by Klarman Autos as part of the box, the plug they add on. The voltmeter. Moving down we have a 12 volt plug here, Siggy plug, and then we have 2 blanks so you can put more in it. Down here is a Lunar plug for a Lunar fridge, but yeah, I obviously use Engel, so we've got the Engel plug. Up here we have USBs, 2 USBs. One's a fast charge, one's a regular. This Anderson plug goes to the inverter, this Anderson plug goes to the switch panels, and there is another input underneath. So if I want to add anything else, you can do so. So it's buildable, it's adaptable. Let's talk lithium power and the benefits of it. 100 amp hour Amtron battery inside here, and it's a lithium battery. That battery, not only is it only 11 kilos, that's rounding it up from 10.9, so 11 kilo battery, lithium allows you to use at least 80% of your battery. So that means this battery, I'll get at least 80 amp hours. Well, in fact, this particular battery, I can take down to 5%. So this 100 amp hour battery, I have 95 usable amp hours before I need to start charging it. 95 with 11 kilos. Let's put this into perspective. If you have 2 AGM batteries or 2 lead acid batteries, you will need 160 amp hours of battery to get anywhere near a lithium battery. So if you had 2 AGM batteries that are 80 amp hours each to equal 160 amp hours, you're only going to get 50% of that 160 amp hours, which means you'll get 80 usable amp hours. Those 2 batteries combined, probably 50 kilos, I would say. The lithium battery, 11 kilos. One single battery, taking up only that much space. If I needed to do that with 2 AGMs, well, first of all, I can't fit 2 batteries in there. Second of all, it's going to be bloody heavy. Another benefit to lithium is the charge rates. If this Amtron battery, lithium, was down to about 30 or 40%, 2 hours drive, fully charged, no problem. AGM batteries or lead acid batteries, you need to drive all freaking day to get the same charge out of those. Lithium batteries charge 5 times faster. So that's another benefit. There aren't many cons to a lithium. Let's move on to the price. That Amtron battery retails for under $1,000. $1,000. 2 AGM batteries to get the equivalent amount of power out of that, you're probably looking pretty close to that. Maybe $700, so $300 more. You got a battery that'll probably last you for at least 5 years or more, depending on how you treat it. AGM batteries, trust me, from my experience, they last about 2 to 3 years maximum, and they just get destroyed. One final message with lithium batteries. The cheap, no-name brands, avoid those batteries like the plague. You're better off having an AGM than those real cheap, inferior batteries. So do your research so you make sure you get the correct battery. And look, the most expensive lithium battery isn't always the best battery either. So do your research. You really got to weigh up your options. If you're worried about weight, definitely lithium. If you find a good lithium battery, go for lithium. That's my advice. It's time for pros and cons. Talk about pros here. It's removable, it's portable. Would I do this? Probably not, unless I'm traveling with the kids and we've got a base camp. I'd just back the car up really. But if you want to set up base camp, it's a cool solution. If you have it in the back of, say, a vehicle that's not fully set up for touring and stuff, you've got this to bring to camp. $2.5 grand is still a lot of money. However, if you buy a brand new Hilux or you have a newer dual cab ute or something, this is actually a very affordable solution. When you compare it to installing a dual battery kit in the front and you've got to stuff around all the wiring and all that, everything's right here. It is the simplest thing you can do. It's probably the best way you can afford to have a power box complete solution with lithium. That, I reckon, is the most affordable way on the market for a decent lithium and a decent unit with good stuff. Should you sell your vehicle, you can bring this into your next vehicle. It's a system that's easy to unplug. Even if you want to leave the wiring in the chassis rail, don't worry about that. You can just rewire it in the next system. The main thing is you're keeping your lithium battery, you're keeping your power box. Also, you can move it from one car to another car, should you need to. It does everything a dual battery system can do, but even more. Every single thing has cons as well as pros. This battery system is not a tuck-away unit. It does take up some space, although not much really, because there's a wheel arch behind it. This is kind of the dead space in a tub. However, if you have a wagon, it will take up some space. Cables can, of course, look a bit messy and get a bit messy. I think we've done a pretty good job here though. You can't really see too many cables. I mean, you can see the angle cable coming out here, which is hidden behind and goes around. But if you add all your little things to this box system, it can possibly get a bit messy if you're not smart about where you're putting the cables. This box does have a limited capacity. A 100 amp hour lithium battery is the biggest you'll fit in this. You can't fit a 150 amp hour or a 200 amp hour. So if you need more power than that, this box is not your solution. This system is also limited to a 1200 watt inverter. You can't run a bigger inverter off this system. But we're not here to make coffees. We're not here to cook stuff on induction. We're camping. This is a affordable solution. It's not a $5,000 full game-changing vehicle setup. Okay, this is an affordable solution for most people out there, and that's why I've gone for it. The switchboard and a fuse box. That's the fuse box down here. That is the switchboard. Now I've gone for specific switches on here. These were recommended by Heiner, who's Climate Automotive Solutions. He recommended these little push button ones here, and the reason for that being he knew I was putting it inside the tub. It can handle a bit of rain, a bit of a splash on it. Not only that, you have to push the middle in. So if anything hits it, it'll have to hit it on such an angle to turn it on, and nothing really here is going to get to it anyway. The light switch is on the front here, so when I open the lid, I can reach in and click this even without dropping the tailgate. That way I know where the lights are. This switch on here are these lights here. So what I can do is use these for camp, or if I'm driving at night, I can switch these on. Now they're not switched from the front, but they are switched on reverse. So when I reverse, these lights do come on. The next switch is in fact the water. So when you press the middle one, it activates the gauge, so I can read the gauge and see how much water's left. It's 50 litres. There is an outlet over there. There's also a gravity feed. Now this I'll get into more in the water and fuel episode, because there's a lot more going on than just what's in here. Moving over, the fourth switch is the diesel pump, which is in here. It's a Bowser style, so I can literally pull up next to someone else and fill them up with 50 litres. Or I can fill it into my own tank, which I've done. This has actually saved my ass on the way to that 3-week trip we just did. I actually ran out of fuel because I still had to get used to the reading on my gauge in the front because I've changed the tank there. More on that later. Time to talk about the lights. In particular, the PDP lights. I've got 4 of them in here. There's a 600mm long one, and there are 3 that are 300mm long. So behind here, there's one as well. So if I turn this one off, you can see it there. So as you can see, I can turn these on and off individually as well. So if I don't want to flood the whole place with light, I can just turn them off. But I can also go white light. So white light will attract a lot of bugs, trust me. Red light attracts maybe 10% of the bugs, and it's only due to the brightness of them. Also, you'll retain your night vision at night, so if you've got nice stars you want to look at, or you want to actually see what's around you, red light is the go. Plus, you're not going to blind the whole camp out. The master switch is here, as you've already seen. And as I said, I can turn each individual one into a red or a white, or turn them off. And here is my new fridge. Let's talk about it. In the Hilux, I had to go with the MTV 35. So if I wanted an angle fridge, that's probably the tallest fridge I can fit in here. 35 litres, 40 litres, it's 5 litres difference, and I'm used to having a 40 litre combi fridge. This I can use as a fridge or a freezer, and I also have the exact same size in the Patriot camper. So that means that when I tow the trailer, I can make one just food, one drinks, which we did on this trip, or I can even make one freezer and one fridge, which means I have a total of 70 litres of fridge freezer space, which is more than enough. If I could have fit a 40, I probably would have put a 40 in here, but because of the hard lid, I'm a bit compromised. Most people think they need a 50 litre or a 60 litre or a 70 litre, some even 80 litre, and I think that's because they're used to their fridge at home having all that stuff. But if you're only going away for a weekend or a week, do you really need that much space? All you got to do is put stuff in when you take stuff out. Simple as that. You don't need a big fridge. You'll also notice I don't have a fridge slide, because most fridge slides, drop down slides or slide outs,
They weigh sometimes more than the fridge itself. This fridge weighs 21 kilos. I don't have a drop slide, and I don't need a drop slide because I can get to it from there, and from here. And I can even sit in the tailgate and pull a beer out if I want to.
Cheers.
This is a 2021 Hilux and it doesn't have gas struts. Thank you, Toyota. Bloody good job. The alternator. We've upgraded that and we've tested it. The stock alternator with the Hilux is only 85 amp hours. It has a heat compensation, so if it gets too hot, it'll lower the output. So running all these lights, running a winch, running your charging gear, pulling a trailer, sending power back to that trailer, sending power back to my second battery, all that really adds up, and a normal, regular stock alternator will not cut the mustard.
So that's the standard Toyota alternator here, 85 amp hours at the very most. We put in an upgraded version which is rated to 155. When we tested it in the vehicle at idle, we got 90 amp hours at idle. 90. That's 5 more amp hours than what the other one produces. 90. That's incredible. We then switched the lights on, switched the inverter on, switched the fridge on, switched as much stuff as we could on the vehicle, and we got it up to about 135, I think it was. Once we hooked the trailer and everything up, I've got to test it again. We'll probably get it right up to 150 amp hours. The alternator I used was through Klarman Automotive Solutions. You'll have to hit him up to find out what the brand was there, because I can't remember. That said, however, you can get a genuine Toyota one for the Crusade Fortuner and the Kakadu Prado, because they have higher output alternators to run all the extra gadgets that those two vehicles have. So they're the up-spec version of the Prado and the Fortuner. That said, however, the unit I put in doesn't have a heat compensation. It's not a smart alternator. It goes directly to the battery. So it's not going to mess with anything. It's just going to give you power straight to the battery. So we've also wired it up differently. The previous alternator, this one here, went to the vehicle and went to the fuse box, then went to the battery. The one that's in now, directly to the battery. And then from the battery, everything else gets this power.
So as Torb said, this is your true blue Aussie day setup. Fridge, battery, solar. It's got all the elements. Good call. Speaking of solar, it's 300 watts. It's the biggest blanket one that I know of. It's a KT version. We've been charging the cruiser with it this morning because the camera crew's been using the inverter quite heavily. We managed to get, at an angle of the sun, 230 watts of power out of it. We've got the phone, I'm in the Victron app, and we are getting 11 amps out of the blanket.
All the work to the rear of the vehicle was done by Klarman Automotive Solutions. Heiner and the boys did an awesome job. Now here's the cool thing, if you are a DIYer, you can actually go to their store and get all the components that you need to do a similar thing or the same thing. Of course, if you need some help with installing it, I can definitely vouch for these boys.
Now time to talk about the weights that I've added to the Luxy this time, the Hilux, the weight, and it's all adding up. So, PROJECT LUXY has added, the battery box itself is 6 kilos, the Amptron battery inside is 11 kilos, we're rounding up here. The fuse boxes combined they're 1 kilo, the fridge 21 kilos as mentioned earlier. So even though it's just electrical stuff, and you can see the cables I've added on there too, it all adds up.
As requested guys, here is a rough costing. There is no labour on the list because that's where I got some help. But this is what I pretty much added to the cost of the Hilux. Comparing this to my 79 series when it comes to electrical,
Well, I think you can triple adding this up, and that'll be what I spent on a 79. So this is an affordable option for most people out there. Yes, you add it all up, it adds up to a fair amount, but there is a fridge in there and there is an alternator upgrade in there too. Well, it's time for us to hit the road. I hope you enjoyed this part of Project Luxy, and I hope it helps a lot of you guys out with power solutions, because power solutions are quite expensive at the best of times. So hopefully this might be a system for you. It may not, you decide. Anyway, stay tuned for the suspension video and the bar work. I'll see you then.